There's something undeniably thrilling about staying in a new place. The fresh surroundings, the promise of adventure, the escape from everyday life. But what if your cozy getaway turned into a nightmare? What if the charming cabin, the serene lakeside cottage, or the vintage Victorian home held secrets far darker than you could imagine? Tonight, we're diving into 3 disturbing true Airbnb horror stories. Tales where guests walked through the door seeking comfort, only to find terror waiting on the other side. From hidden rooms to shadowy figures and unsettling hosts, each story is more chilling than the last. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the end, because the final story will make you think twice before booking your next stay. So lock the doors, dim the lights, and get ready, because sometimes the scariest places to stay are the ones that look the safest. It was supposed to be a romantic weekend getaway for Emily and her boyfriend, Daniel. They had booked a charming little cabin in the woods through Airbnb, complete with a cozy fireplace, a hot tub, and a stunning view of the surrounding forest. The photos on the listing were idyllic, and the reviews were glowing. It seemed like the perfect escape from the chaos of city life. When they arrived, the cabin looked exactly as advertised. It was quaint and rustic, with a warm, inviting atmosphere. The host, an elderly woman named Margaret, greeted them at the door with a smile and a plate of homemade cookies. She gave them a quick tour of the property, pointing out the amenities and reminding them to call her if they needed anything. Then she left, leaving Emily and Daniel to settle in. The first night was perfect. They cooked dinner together, soaked in the hot tub under the stars, and curled up by the fireplace with a bottle of wine. It was everything they had hoped for. But as the night wore on, Emily began to notice something strange. It started with the noises. Faint, almost imperceptible at first, but growing louder as the hours passed. It sounded like scratching, coming from somewhere inside the cabin. Emily tried to ignore it, telling herself it was just the wind or an animal outside. But the sound was too deliberate, too rhythmic to be natural. "Do you hear that?" she asked Daniel, her voice trembling. Daniel paused, listening. "Hear what?" "That scratching sound. It's coming from, I don't know, the walls or something." Daniel frowned. "Probably just the pipes. Old cabins like this make all kinds of weird noises." Emily nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The scratching continued, growing louder, more insistent. It was as if something was trying to get their attention. The next morning, Emily woke up to find Daniel already gone. A note on the kitchen counter explained that he had gone for a run and would be back soon. Emily decided to explore the cabin while she waited. It was a beautiful day, the sunlight streaming through the windows, and she wanted to make the most of it. As she wandered through the cabin, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. A small, almost hidden door in the corner of the living room. It was partially concealed by a bookshelf, and if she hadn't been looking closely, she would have missed it entirely. The door was locked, but the key was hanging on a hook nearby, as if someone had left it there on purpose. Curiosity got the better of her. Emily grabbed the key and unlocked the door, her heart pounding in her chest. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into the darkness. A musty, damp smell wafted up from below, making her stomach churn. Emily hesitated. She knew she shouldn't go down there, but something compelled her to see what was hidden beneath the cabin. She grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen and descended the stairs, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The basement was small and cluttered, filled with old furniture, boxes, and dust-covered trinkets. But what caught Emily's attention was the wall at the far end of the room. It was covered in photographs, dozens of them, pinned to the wall in no particular order. As she stepped closer, her blood ran cold. The photos were of people, dozens of people, all smiling, all unaware they were being watched. Some were taken in the cabin, others in the surrounding woods. And in the center of the wall was a photo of Emily and Daniel, taken just the night before as they sat by the fireplace. Emily's hands trembled as she reached for the photo. That's when she noticed the writing on the back. It was a date, tomorrow's date, and a single word. Mine. She dropped the photo and stumbled backward, her heart racing. She had to get out of there. She turned to leave, but the door at the top of the stairs slammed shut, the sound echoing through the basement. Emily's breath came in short, panicked gasps as she rushed to the door, yanking on the handle. It wouldn't budge. And then, she heard it. The scratching sound again, but this time it was coming from behind her. She turned slowly, her flashlight shaking in her hand. The wall of photos began to move, shifting and twisting as if alive. And then a figure emerged from the shadows. A tall, gaunt man with hollow eyes and a twisted smile. "You shouldn't have come down here," he whispered, his voice low and guttural. Emily screamed, dropping the flashlight as she backed away. The man stepped closer, his movements slow and deliberate. She could feel his breath, cold and damp against her skin. She stumbled, her back hitting the wall as the man reached for her. And then, the door at the top of the stairs burst open. Daniel stood there, his face pale with fear. "Emily, what the hell are you doing down here?" Emily didn't answer. She just ran, pushing past Daniel and up the stairs. She didn't stop until she was outside, the cold air filling her lungs. Daniel followed, his face filled with confusion and concern. "What happened?" he asked, grabbing her shoulders. Emily couldn't speak. She just pointed to the cabin, her hands trembling. Daniel glanced at the door, his eyes widening as the man from the basement stepped into the doorway, his hollow eyes fixed on them. They didn't wait to see what happened next. They grabbed their things and ran, not stopping until they reached the safety of their car. They never went back to the cabin, and they never spoke about what they had seen. But to this day, Emily can't shake the feeling that the man is still out there, watching, waiting. And sometimes, when she's alone, she hears the scratching sound again, low and insistent, as if something is trying to get her attention. Carla had been searching for a peaceful getaway, a place to unwind after a stressful year. When she found the charming lakeside cottage on Airbnb, it seemed perfect. The photos showed a quaint, isolated cabin with large windows overlooking a serene lake, surrounded by lush woods. The host, a man named Leo, had rave reviews, praising his hospitality and the cleanliness of the property. The moment Carla arrived, she felt a twinge of unease. The cabin looked just as it had in the photos, but something about it felt off. The air was too still, the lake too quiet. Leo greeted her with a warm smile, handing over the keys and offering to help with her bags. He gave her a quick tour, pointing out the amenities and highlighting the guest manual on the kitchen counter. After Leo left, Carla settled in. She made herself a cup of tea, took in the view from the porch, and began to relax. As the sun set, the cabin's large windows offered a breathtaking view of the lake, the water reflecting the fiery sky. She sat by the window, enjoying the solitude. But as the light faded, the reflection in the glass shifted. For a brief moment, she thought she saw someone standing behind her, a shadowy figure in the dim room. She spun around, but the room was empty. She laughed at herself, chalking it up to exhaustion. Carla decided to take a shower, hoping the warm water would wash away her lingering anxiety. As the bathroom filled with steam, she felt her nerves ease. She wiped the fog from the mirror, but as she did, she saw it again. A dark figure standing just outside the bathroom door. Her heart lurched. She threw open the door, but the hallway was empty. Her phone had no signal, but the Wi-Fi was working. She messaged Leo asking if anyone else had access to the cabin. His reply was immediate. "Of course not. You're all alone out there." She wanted to believe him, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She double-checked the locks and drew the curtains, trying to create a barrier between herself and the unsettling darkness outside. But as the night dragged on, the noises began. Soft at first, a floorboard creaking, the quiet hum of the fridge. But then, heavier sounds, footsteps, breathing, the soft rustle of fabric like someone moving just out of sight. Carla sat frozen on the couch, clutching her phone, staring at the shadow under the bedroom door. She had closed that door earlier, but now it was open just a crack. And then, her phone vibrated. A new message from Leo. "Why are you still awake?" Her blood ran cold. She hadn't told him she was awake. Her fingers trembled as she typed a reply. "How do you know?" 3 little dots appeared, showing he was typing. And then, his reply. "I'm right here." The bedroom door creaked open. Carla's scream echoed through the empty cabin, but no one heard her. No one ever did. The next morning, the cleaning crew arrived as scheduled. They found the cottage pristine, every room neat and untouched. There was no sign of Carla, no bags, no personal belongings, just the soft hum of the fridge and the open guest manual on the kitchen counter. One of the workers, a young woman named Sarah, noticed something strange. The last page of the guest manual had a list of names, all neatly handwritten. The latest entry read, "Carla, checked out." "What do you think this means?" she asked her colleague. He shrugged. Probably just the host keeping track of guests. But as Sarah looked closer, she noticed the dates. The list stretched back years. Dozens of names with "checked out" written beside them. And yet, there had never been a review from any of them. She felt a chill run down her spine. "Should we call Leo?" Her colleague's face paled. "Leo? There is no Leo. The owner of this place died years ago." Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, her hands trembling. A new message from an unknown number. "The cabin is ready for the next guest." She dropped the phone, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The cottage stood quiet and still. The lake outside as smooth as glass. And somewhere in the shadows, something watched, waiting for the next unwitting guest to step inside. Aidan had been traveling for work for months. The endless string of dull hotel rooms and generic corporate apartments had left him craving something different. When he found the charming Victorian home on Airbnb, it seemed perfect. The listing promised history, charm, and comfort, with warm lighting, vintage decor, and a quiet neighborhood not far from the city center. It was a refreshing change from the sterile environments he had become used to. The host, a woman named Marla, had glowing reviews. Guests praised her hospitality, the cleanliness of the house, and the little touches she added. Fresh flowers on the dining table, homemade cookies in the kitchen, and a handwritten welcome note. When Aidan arrived, the house was just as described, a picture of cozy comfort nestled between 2 towering oaks. Marla met him at the door, her demeanor as warm as her reviews suggested. She handed over the keys, gave a brief tour, and then mentioned one last detail as they stood in the upstairs hallway. "There's one room that's locked," she said, gesturing to a plain wooden door at the end of the hall. "It's just storage. Please don't try to open it." Aidan nodded, hardly giving it a second thought. After all, it wasn't unusual for Airbnb hosts to have a private space. He thanked Marla, who left him to settle in. The first night was uneventful. Aidan enjoyed the vintage feel of the home, the creaky hardwood floors, and the ornate crown molding. He made dinner, caught up on emails, and went to bed early, the comfort of the plush mattress a welcome change from his usual lodging. But on the second night, things began to feel different. Aidan woke around 2 a.m. to a faint thumping sound. He sat up, his eyes adjusting to the darkness. The house was quiet, save for the ticking of an old clock in the hallway. He told himself it was probably just the house, settling, or perhaps a branch tapping against a window. He pulled the covers tighter around himself and drifted back to sleep. The next morning he found the hallway window shut tight and the oaks outside standing perfectly still. No branches near the glass. He shook off the unease and went about his day. That evening, after returning from meetings, Aidan sat in the living room with a book. As the house grew darker, he turned on a lamp, its warm glow pushing back the shadows. He heard it again, the thumping. It was louder this time, more insistent. He stood, his pulse quickening, and followed the sound up the stairs. It was coming from behind the locked door. Aidan hesitated, Marla's warning echoing in his mind. Just storage. He pressed his ear to the door, his breath shallow. The sound stopped. He pulled back, his skin prickling with goosebumps. Deciding he had let his imagination get the best of him, he returned to the living room. But the peace didn't last. Throughout the evening, the noises continued. Soft thuds, the creak of floorboards, and occasionally, what sounded like whispers. Aidan tried the TV, music, anything to drown it out. But the sounds seemed to weave through the noise, reaching him no matter what he did. By midnight, he couldn't take it anymore. Armed with nothing but his phone flashlight, he went back upstairs. The locked door loomed at the end of the hallway, shadows pooling around it. His hand trembled as he reached for the handle. It was cold to the touch. He tried to turn it. Locked, just as Marla had said. "Aidan," a voice whispered, soft and pleading. He stumbled back, his phone slipping from his hand. The light flickered as it hit the floor, casting strange shadows. The voice came again, muffled but clear. "Help me!" He bolted back downstairs, locking himself in the bathroom. His mind raced. Had someone broken in? Was there another guest he didn't know about? He texted Marla, his hands shaking. "Is there someone else in the house? I'm hearing things." Her response came quickly. "Of course not. You're alone." Aidan felt a cold dread settle in his gut. He stayed in the bathroom until the first light of dawn seeped through the window. When he emerged, the house was silent. He packed his things quickly, deciding he'd had enough. He needed to leave, to find a hotel, anywhere but here. As he dragged his suitcase to the front door, he heard it, a soft, rhythmic tapping. He turned slowly, his eyes drawn to the top of the stairs. The door at the end of the hallway was open. A shadow moved behind it, shifting slowly as if someone was waiting. Against his better judgment, Aidan stepped forward, each movement sluggish as if the air had thickened around him. He reached the door, his hand pressing against the worn wood. The room beyond was dark, the window covered by heavy drapes. The air was cold and damp, filled with the smell of mildew. In the center of the room sat an old chair, and on it, a figure. Pale, gaunt, its limbs too long, fingers stretched out against the armrests. Its head lolled to the side, empty eyes fixed on Aidan. "Help me," it whispered, its voice scraping against the silence. Aidan's vision swam. He stumbled backward, his foot catching on the carpet. He fell, his head striking the doorframe. Pain bloomed, and darkness swallowed him. When he woke, he was lying on the living room couch. Sunlight streamed through the window, warm and gentle. Marla sat in the chair across from him, her expression serene. "You fell," she said. "Must have been so tired." Aidan's head throbbed. "There was someone upstairs." Marla's smile didn't falter. "Oh dear. There's no one else here. You must have been dreaming." He wanted to argue, to tell her about the voice, the figure, but his mouth wouldn't move. His limbs felt heavy. His vision blurred as Marla stood, her silhouette shifting in the sunlight. "Rest now," she murmured. "I'll take care of everything." Aidan's eyes closed, darkness pulling him under. As his consciousness faded, he heard it, the soft, rhythmic tapping, like a heartbeat within the walls. The next morning, the house was empty. Marla sat on the porch, a cup of tea steaming in her hands. The Airbnb app chimed softly on her phone. A new booking. She smiled, her fingers tapping out a reply. "Welcome to my home. I hope you enjoy your stay." And somewhere, deep within the house, the whispers began again. And there you have it. 3 disturbing true Airbnb horror stories that will make you think twice before booking your next stay. From hidden rooms and unwelcome guests to locked doors with chilling secrets, these tales remind us that sometimes the scariest experiences can happen when we least expect them. If these stories sent shivers down your spine, don't forget to hit that like button and let me know in the comments which story haunted you the most. Was it the eerie scratching in the hidden room, the shadowy figure in The Unwelcome Guest, or the unsettling truth behind the locked door? Make sure to share this video with your friends who love a good scare, and hit that subscribe button along with the bell icon so you never miss a spine-tingling story from the 6th frequency. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you ever hear whispers in the walls, see shadows where there shouldn't be any, or find a door that's always locked, trust your instincts. Stay curious. Stay scared. And I'll see you in the next video.